Officially named the Iroquois, but much better known by the name Huey. Were produced, and they most indelibly associated with their role in the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, Hueys performed pretty much all the roles you could think of for a helicopter: air assault, medical evacuation, general purpose transport, gunship, and so forth. Indeed, helicopters of this type alone could carry out virtually a complete assault mission, some of them transporting the troops in, others were fitted with machine guns or rockets to provide them with protection. Still more Hueys were on hand to evacuate the forces and, if necessary, the wounded. Of those 16,000 odd Hueys that were built, the official figures show that just in excess of 7,000 of them served in Vietnam, more than 3,300 of which were destroyed. So that was no surprise given the massive number of Hueys that were in theatre. commissioned by an RAF squadron leader called Rob Tierney. He found the helicopter on the sports field in Stanley, and he flew it on personnel and freight transport duties around the Falkland Islands, including several missions to ships offshore. It augmented the British military's own rotary wing assets that were already in theatre. It was on the chartered ferry, the Tor Caledonia, that the Huey was brought back to the UK when it was no longer needed in the Falklands. Rob Tierney was having the helicopter moved to RAF Finningley near Doncaster, but it was badly damaged during the road move when a rotor blade hit a bridge. I mean, it was a rather more extensive rebuild that was required to return it to flying condition than Rob had expected. 3.5 years later, after a very in-depth restoration, it was returned to flight with Rob Tierney at the controls. Its first post-restoration flight was at the end of May 1986. It took place at RAF Odium, and appropriately enough, one of the people looking on was the former governor of the Falkland Islands, Sir Rex Hunt, a former RAF Spitfire pilot. It was then that this machine was given the registration it now wears, huey, and it was operated by the Royal Air Force Benevolent Fund for promotional and fundraising purposes for several years. Later it was grounded and put on loan to the Bournemouth Aviation Museum before it was sold again to a syndicate based at North Weald in Essex. And it was returned to flight February 2007, now in this olive drab US Army livery. During 2012 and has continued to operate it on the airshow circuit, but used in other forms remain very much operational. It's no longer in US Army use, the UH-1. Still several US law enforcement agencies that fly Hueys in Europe. They're used by the armed forces of Germany and Spain. Twin-engine variants. Now the latest UH-1Y model, the Yankee, is still in production for the United States Marine Corps. This may be an historic machine, but it's still very relevant indeed in today's world. Thanks indeed to Mark Fitzgerald for putting on such a good display of the Bell's UH-1H. He's heading back to his